Hello and welcome to yet another new episode of The Frontline on your #1 TV channel, Parastatal TV. I am your host, Mugure Kamau. Now today I am pleased to have with me the Vice President, African Leadership and Reconciliation Ministries, Alam Dr. Ndai Saba, as well as the Kenyan Director, Sami Linge, who will be joining me later in the show. Alam happens to be an African-based organization that focuses on equipping leaders with the skills and knowledge to transform their communities. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carol.
It's an honor to have you with us. Briefly, I would love you to tell us who is Alam Kenya. Give us a brief background of Alam Kenya and what you do.
Alam Kenya was created some 20 years ago, and it happened actually to be the mother of all other Alams we have in Africa. So Alam chapter started here and expanded its work in various countries we are currently in East Africa and Central Africa. And we do the Ministry of Reconciliation, of Relationships. We do develop servant leaders, and we help these leaders. Actually, we equip them to do transformation within their community. That's the work of Alam Kenya.
When did it start?
It started some 20 years ago here in Kenya, in Nairobi. And it was started by a Rwandan pastor who had a passion for the work of the Ministry of Reconciliation. And in fact, this was in the response to the crisis of genocide in Rwanda in 1994. As we all remember, the country went through genocide. Quite a number of pastors were killed. Many others were now in exile. Missionaries had ran away, went back to their countries, and the church in Rwanda was desperate for leaders. And that's where Dr. Musekura got this passion to make sure he responds to the crisis and enter into actually to fill the gap of having Christian leaders who can take over the work of the ministry in Rwanda.
So Alam happens to have trained over 100,000 people, which is quite a good job there. And what does an individual require to become a trainee of Alam?
For someone to be a trainee of Alam, it doesn't require much, like many other training where they ask you for a diploma or a certificate or something. We just need people who are in leadership in various roles. And particularly our passion is for the grassroots leaders, those who are leading their communities, those who are leading women groups, those who are leading youth groups, those who are leading churches. Whoever is in the leadership at the grassroots level, those are the people we are targeting so that we equip them with the right tools and skills to make sure we have the right leadership in the place to take up the ministry.
And most of the countries that you serve happen to have had war, tribal conflict, or genocide. And what are the mitigation factors that the organization is putting in place to just avoid war before it happens?
It is so unfortunate that this ministry started in response to a war. But as time goes by, we have learned several lessons that we need to apply on the ground to help people not to have war, because no one is happy to be responding to the crisis of war. And we are trying, we do our best to make sure we put in place leaders who can prevent that. And those are servant leaders. You need to actually recall that many crises we have around us are not just self-generated. Most of the time we blame the communities, but you realize it's not the community, it's the leaders. Whenever we have Christ-like leaders in place, servant leaders, those who are who are not selfish, who are not looking for the interest, and look for the interest of their communities, their churches, their countries, those leaders will definitely prevent war. So what we are doing is to make sure those various leaders at the grassroots level are trained, are aware of this, and are given the right tool to make sure they lead on the front, to make sure people are taking steps ahead. We are doing this for youth. Youth are most of the time misused during this kind of crisis. And we are creating awareness among youth and training them not to be misused, but rather to think ahead of time that these are the leaders of today and tomorrow, and they have to make sure there is a peaceful environment in their place. The leaders we have currently, we also help them to understand there's nothing anybody can gain from war. It's a terrible thing. It affects all of us. And as some of the leaders have already said, no one can predict the outcome of war. So the best way is to prevent by having a clear leadership which put the interest of the community ahead of any other interest. That is what we do at Alam.
And one of your greatest roles is to impact these good leaders through Christian values. And you happen to be in eight countries in Africa, right?
Yes.
And we have, for example, South Sudan, which I believe there are Muslims there. What role do you play with such countries where we have Muslims?
In fact, the country which is more of Muslim, where we work in Africa, is in North Sudan, where the whole government is a Muslim. So what we do, one of the things we do is interfaith dialogue. We make sure people from different faith background can sit down and talk to each other. In the first place, all those religions, when you look at them and you go into their fundamental books, they talk of peace. And you even wonder why this animosity and the conflict between faith are coming from. So we sit with them and we reason with them based on their own books. If it is Muslims, we base on the Quran. The Quran has quite a number of texts speaking about peace and how people can be living peacefully. And much of what we do is interfaith dialogue. That's the major work we do. And we reach out where we bring Christians, we bring Muslims together and other faiths to make sure people can talk and see this beauty of diversity rather than looking at it on a negative note. So we do organize conferences, we do organize workshops with interfaith groups, imams and the pastors and the bishops sitting together and looking for the interest of their communities, their followers, actually, and their nations. And that is what we do in North Sudan. That is what we do in Dar es Salaam. That is what we do in Zanzibar. Those places where there is not necessarily predominance of Christian, but there is so many other faiths.
Okay. And so what are some of the challenges that you face, for example, in these countries?
Some of the challenges you face in these countries is where you find these groups have never sat together. So you are initiating something new, which they can't even think of. But we use our own experience and our own strategies to make sure we talk. First of all, a group, we visit their respective groups, we talk with their leaders, and once we convince the leaders what we are looking for, now they can be able to mobilize their followers to come together. Some of the challenges mainly is because themselves, they never had any such initiatives, and they can't even think it's working, it's possible, and when we do it, at the end, everybody is happy and they even astonished that it's possible that people from various faiths can sit down, talk, have a common ground of understanding without necessarily fighting.
Yeah. And war happens to be not only in Africa, and so the skills that Alam offers are needed worldwide. What are the plans for Alam in working with other countries?
Actually, it's not about the plans for the future, it's the plans already in place, because we attend various global summits all over the world, in Asia, in America. We happen to be having partnership with various global organizations, institutions of higher learning, where we go and share our experiences with those other leaders across the globe. So it's not about what we do here in Africa, it's just going out and sharing the experience. And again, because we already have 20 years of experience in this, we have developed curriculum. We have written books which can help various groups all over the world. We share this knowledge. We can sell the knowledge to them. We can go and impact this knowledge across the globe as we attend various global meetings.
That has been the Vice President Alam, Mr. Dai Saba. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. We'll go for a short break. When we come back, we'll have the Kenya Director, Sami Linge, with us. Stay tuned.